How's it going, everybody? Doing a gum-chewing recap of the wild card round NFL playoffs, and I will preview the divisional rounds quickly. I think I ended up going 3-3 on my picks, but the first game, the Texans obliterated the Browns. They had 2 interception returns for TDs, like, in a row, I think. Stroud played good in his first playoff game. I mean, Jordan Love had almost the exact same stats, but he had like 216 yards or something, 3 TDs, something along those lines. He was solid. 45-14, that's a big win for them. I don't know what they were expecting. Stroud's seemingly looks like the real deal too, so that's huge for that franchise. They are going to Baltimore, I believe, in the divisional round, but the Browns still had a solid season. They had a bunch of injuries and stuff, so I'm surprised by I'm not surprised that Houston won. I'm more surprised that they blew them out so badly. But let's check the stats real quick. They were up 14-10 Cleveland in the second quarter briefly. Flacco has a touchdown, 2 picks, 307 yards. Hunt has 26 yards of rushing and a TD. And they passed the ball around to everybody. They had no sacks or turnovers, so like forced turnovers. Stroud was 16-20 over 274. 3 TDs, no picks. Singletary has 66 yards rushing and a TD. 3 guys get TDs. Schultz, Jordan, and Collins receiving TDs. 4 different guys got sacks. Nelson had a TD return for touchdown, 82 yards. Interception, And Harris had one for 36 yards for touchdown, so it's just a big win. Whatever happens next week doesn't really matter at this point. The fact that they made the playoffs and you got a home game, won the division, and won the game is huge. So, second game here, Chiefs beat the Dolphins 26-7. I know I picked the Chiefs in that one. I didn't think there was a way the Chiefs were going to lose at home. I know the Dolphins were a bit banged up on defense, but it was like -30. I think Mahomes' helmet cracked at one point, probably because plastic or whatever it is, and types of. And -30 is going to lead to breakage. Tua has 199 yards, a TD, and a pick. They don't run the ball really at all. 76 yards on 18 carries. Mustard had 36 yards. Hill has a receiving TD. No sacks. Not much doing there for them. Mahomes has a touchdown, no picks, 262 yards. Running back, I forget how to say his name, has 89 yards and a rushing touchdown. Rice has 130 yards receiving and a touchdown. They did lose a fumble. They had 2 sacks. They did have the one pick by Mike Edwards. And they go to Buffalo, so they will be meeting for the 3rd time in the playoffs in recent years. I know they played back in the day in a championship game. Montana was the quarterback of the Chiefs. But that's going to be a good game. I'll get into those games in a bit. That'll be another. They kind of beat him up a little bit in the one championship game, the Chiefs did, and then that other thriller that went to OT where each team scored twice in 2 minutes at the end of the game. Sunday, Packers beat the Cowboys 48-32. The Cowboys got garbage touchdowns. They were getting pretty destroyed. honestly, that's a surprising score. I thought the Cowboys would have been that team because they were 8-0 at home. I thought they were going to easily win the game. Not even say the Packers are bad, but they were such a dominant home team that the Cowboys, and they not only lose, they get destroyed. Jordan Love, 272 yards, 3 TDs, no picks. Aaron Jones, 118 yards rushing and 3 TDs. I mean, they were just doing it. He got TDs to 3 different receivers. They had 4 sacks. They did have a touchdown. Savage had an interception return for a TD. And I ranted about this in my long ramble a little bit. People are like, oh, the Cowboys just suck. The Cowboys don't suck. Like, let's be honest. It's just, they just, I guess, do suck in the playoffs. They don't really suck normally in the regular season. They get to the playoffs, they have a stink on them in the playoffs. Prescott has 3 TDs, 400 yards, and 2 picks. A lot of those yards came late. Pollard had a rushing TD. Lamb and Gallup both go over 100 yards receiving. Jake Ferguson has 3 receiving TDs. They just, they need to do something. Jerry Jones needs to hire a coach that he can just kind of give full reign to and not be up their ass, because Jones is like that. He was like that with Jason Garrett, and I'm sure he's like that with McCarthy. Guys like Wade Phillips, like, he needs you to, like, just, in his heart and his mind, he thinks he's the coach probably. He needs to, like, look at himself in the mirror and be like, listen. Because they need a serious coach. Like, I think a big part of it is they need, like, if they got a Belichick or something, you could see them win 2 playoff games next year. Like, that's just the kind of mentality I think he has. You know, kind of glad I'm not a Cowboys fan. They haven't made a championship since, what, the 95 season, so it would have been in 96. Now, for a franchise such as theirs, that has been to, like, at least 8 Super Bowls. I know they've won 5, right? And I think they've lost, I think, 3 in the 70s. They lost to the Steelers twice, right? Maybe they even lost 4 in the 70s. I don't know. They beat Denver in the 70s. They would have beaten somebody else in the 70s, too. They did lose to the Steelers twice, right? I want to say they lost to the Dolphins, maybe. I don't know. But for a franchise that has 5 Super Bowls, been to other ones, for them not to even get to a championship game since 96 is kind of crazy. Because they've had good teams since then, you know, and just kind of stumble into one. Like, there's so many random teams that will just stumble into a championship game. I'd almost prefer Denver missing the playoffs 8 years in a row than for them to just constantly have expectation and just almost all the time lose the first playoff game. You know, it's not, I know Romo won 1 or 2, right? I know Prescott's won 2, so they have advanced, but the fact that they have not gotten into a championship game since then is wild. Because that's the problem. When your team has expectation, it starts to really mess you up when they can't get it done, you know? But yeah, I'm sure there'll be shakeups at some point with Dallas, new offseason. Final Sunday game, Detroit wins 24-23 over the Rams. Their first win since, I want to say, it would have been in 92. It was the 91 season, right? It was the 92 AFC Championship. Right? Whoops. That sounded terrible. It was a Burger King ad that came up on ESPN. Oh, no, sorry. It was, is it Burger King or is it Applebee's? First since 91, it says. It is BK's, you know, big, juicy. It was a BK's ad. Detroit's first win since it says 91. I guess maybe, I'm going to say just count it as 91 season because I'm pretty sure they're the ones that played the Redskins in the NFC Championship that year and lost. the year Denver would have played Buffalo in the AFC Championship. Either way, it's been a long time, and I like to see it. You like to see the franchises that haven't had success in a while get a win. It's nice to see. It's a tight game, obviously. I think both Goff and Stafford were both good. Stafford had 2 TDs, no picks, 367 yards, 68 yards rushing as a team. That rookie receiver, Puka, 181 yards receiving the TD. Atwell also had a receiving TD. Of course, the Lions just went by 1, like it wasn't going to be easy for him, Jared Goff has a touchdown, 277 yards. No picks. Montgomery has a rushing touchdown. Gibbs has a rushing touchdown. St. Brown has under 10 yards receiving. Laporta had the receiving TD. 2 sacks for Hutchinson. So they get in there. I mean, the Rams are kind of expected to be rebuilding, kind of, right? Or some shit, and they made the playoffs, so. Now, Detroit will play the Bucks, I believe. So they get another home game now. They were the 3 seed, but since Dallas lost, they became the 2 seed. Packers will be playing San Francisco. And then the Monday games, this game got moved because of the snow. Buffalo beats Pittsburgh 31-17. It's kind of a game. Pittsburgh's in a weird place because they, I feel like, should be in like a full. I don't know. I don't know their team well enough, so I shouldn't say. But I feel like they're kind of in the midst of a rebuild. The problem is, the Steelers are like the opposite of like a Browns and a Lions who don't have a lot of success. Even when their team's not that great, they get into the playoffs or they win like 8 or 9 games, and their draft pick is never like super good. And they'll always be able to attract free agents, I would think. Rudolph has 2 TDs and a pick, 229 yards. Passing, 38 yards rushing for Warren. Johnson had the receiving TD, and so did Austin III. I almost feel like they need to kind of suck for 2 years, similar to what kind of happened with the Penguins. They were good for a while, and then they sucked, and then they ended up with Malkin, Fleury, and Crosby. Sometimes you want just suck for a few years, build up some assets, build up some good young players, and boom, But it's also a credit to Tomlin, though, because he's a good coach, and he's probably worth 3 or 4 wins on his own. Kincaid has a TD receiving for the Bills. Allen has 3 receiving TDs, and he had a 52-yard rushing touchdown, I believe. It was 52 yards, 203 yards. Cook had the 79 yards rushing. Shaker had a touchdown receiving. They're going to play the Chiefs again. This is their shot, though. They're in Buffalo. The Chiefs are not the Chiefs of the last few years. I mean, you knew they were. This is when it begins for the Chiefs. I think everybody knew they were going to win that home game, regardless of who they ended up playing. And now it's time to see what the Chiefs are made of, because now they're going to go on the road at least twice before the Super Bowl. And you got to go to a tough place in Buffalo, and then they might have to go to Baltimore. Or if Baltimore loses, Houston. That's what's going to happen for the Chiefs. They're going to beat the Bills, and the Ravens are going to lose to Houston, and then they're going to go to Houston and win that and end up in the Super Bowl again. Chiefs are always a threat, though. That's going to be a good game, I think. And the last game, the Bucks. This was a surprising score too. I guess not really though, because the Eagles have completely collapsed. They were 10-1, and then they ended up like 11-6, and now they lose this game, 32-9. And they weren't really in it. They kind of were in the beginning. I think it was 13-7, or no, it was 13-9. No, it was 16-9. I don't know. Hurts has a TD, 250 yards, no picks. He sacked 3 times. Swift, 4 yards rushing. Devonta Smith had 148 yards receiving. Goddard had a touchdown receiving. I mean, what if they were 10-1 and people were maybe even their own fans, they were 10-1, but people were like, they're kind of a shaky 10-1, and they ended up being right. Baker Mayfield, Skip had to have been loving it, especially after the Cowboys lost, so at least he had something. 3 TDs, no picks, 337 yards. His QBR is always low for some reason, it seems. Whatever they won, right? Sacked 4 times, 72 yards rushing for White. Otten, 89 yards receiving. Moore, Palmer, and Godwin each have receiving TDs. 3 sacks as a team. It's a nice win for the Bucs. Brady leaves. They still win the division, 9-8, whatever, and they get a playoff win, so they took care of business at home. So I believe I know I said Cleveland, even though I even said I'm like any these games go anyway, right? But I think the only guarantees were going to be, in my opinion, were going to be the Chiefs and the Bills. Although, you know what, I would have said the same thing about Dallas, but you got to remember, and I should have remembered, it's Dallas. They just happen to do this the last freaking 20 plus years. Cat's over here, showing a belly. Let me get back. All right, let's do see next week real quick. I'll make picks and be wrong, and well, I'll be right half the time maybe. Texans-Ravens are the first game on Saturday at 4:30. Baltimore's a 9-point favorite. Part of me thinks Texans are going to keep this close because the Ravens also, I feel like Lamar Jackson has a little bit of this. Ravens had good teams under him and have lost early in the playoffs. I'm going to say the Ravens still do win by probably like 2 TDs. I think they're going to come out and do well. But you never know. Once again, I don't know shit, so. Texans, Stroud, though, you know what they did great for Houston? It's just play. No one would have expected them even win the last game. I think everybody's picking the Browns, at least 90% of the people, myself included. Same thing now with the Ravens. No one's picking them probably, so it's like, let's go out there and have fun, man. That's almost the best way to play sometimes, is loose. Just be like, fuck it, man. We don't got expectations. Fuck it. I do think the Ravens win that one, though. But, of course, I'll be wrong. At least 2 times out of the 4, I'll be wrong. The night game is the Packers and the 49ers. 49ers are 9.5-point favorites. Packers look good, too. Now, you can't, you hate to say it, but you can't really count you can't count it as some kind of crazy win over the Cowboys, because this is what the Cowboys have been doing, because they have this weird playoff stink and curse. They're like a team with 5 Super Bowls that they're somehow cursed. I think the 49ers take that one, though. But you never know with them. The 49ers were like, what were they like? They were 12-5. I know they started off hot and then struggled, and then they started to heat up again. Let's say the Ravens win 31-20. I think I said 2 T's, but now it's 31-20. No, it's 31-24 now. Screw it. They keep it close, the Texans. I think the 49ers beat the Packers 30-16. And then I'll be wrong. I mean, I'll probably definitely be wrong on the scores, but I might flat out be wrong on who wins. Sunday games, Bucks go to Detroit. Detroit is a 6.5-point favorite, so they got some big spreads here, except the last game. I think that's going to be a tight game. I think for Detroit, nothing's going to come easy for them. I do think they win. God, if they win another one, their city's going to start losing their shit. I think they win 27-24. I think it's a close game, honestly. But that could go either way, too. That really could go either way. Am I really going to say all 4 home teams are going to win? Because one of them will probably lose. I'm going to say the Lions in a close one. And the last game on Sunday, really yeah, we wouldn't necessarily call it the best because the teams aren't really what they were when they played even a couple of years ago, whenever it was. Because the Bills lost to the Bengals last year, right? But the Bills avoided the Bengals because the Bengals missed the playoffs. It was funny. The Bills had to contend with just the Chiefs. You're like, oh, that's the hump they're going to get over. And then the Bengals appeared. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, crap, now we have to get past them as well. Because the Bengals got into that Super Bowl and they went to the championship last year. Bills got a chance here, you know. They were 6-6. Somehow win the division. They're in the second round, divisional round. And that's a 2.5 point. Buffalo's a 2.5 point favorite for a reason. That's going to be I should say the spread's low for a reason. That is going to be a tight game. I don't even know who to pick in this game. Part of me just wants to say the Chiefs because they do have the experience, although they don't have the road experience in the playoffs. But it's still the Chiefs. They still have Mahomes. You still are the defending champs. You know, this is the Bills' opportunity here to get past a team that's giving them trouble in the playoffs, obviously, and to move on to that conference championship. And if Baltimore's upset, they will have the home game. But I think this is the Bills' best shot, as crazy as it sounds. I don't know who to pick in that game. I don't know. I almost can't pick that game because I really almost want to say the Chiefs, but part of me just thinks it's almost the Bills' year. I don't know why I'm saying that, but it's just something. I'm going to say Bills win like 24-23. Like, this is going to be a tight game, I think. I don't know. And like I said, we'll revisit these next week, and I'll be like, yeah, the Bills won by 40. The Packers destroyed the 49ers, you know. The Ravens didn't score any points, you know. Like, yeah. I'm going to say the Bills an extremely tight game. Obviously, any one of these can game. This game, more than any of the other ones, can go either way. I feel like that game's going to come down to the wire, but find out when I'm wrong next week. But yeah, that's just, you know, a recap of the division, the wild card round, a little bit of a preview for the divisional round. So who did I say? I said all home teams, so I doubt all of them are going to win. Like, from like a statistical standpoint or an odd standpoint, you figure one of those four are gonna lose. But yeah, be back. I mean, it will get quicker and quicker as the season goes on. The playoffs go on. There's only 4 to recap, and then there'll only be 2. So when I do that, and even maybe next week, I might combine that with something like a drink review or something because I'm not gonna be able to stretch it out. But yeah, thanks for checking us out, and have a good day.